Welcome to The Story of Us, where we dive deep into the tactical genius, controversial decisions, and strategic masterstrokes that have shaped football into the global phenomenon we know today. I'm your host, Madison Reed, and today we're embarking on a fascinating journey through soccer's most pivotal moments, from rule changes that literally saved the sport to the tactical innovations that created legends. Let's start with a story that might surprise you. Did you know that football once nearly died from boredom? Picture this. February 1925. Newcastle United versus Barry. A match that ended 0-0. Nothing unusual there, you might think. But here's the kicker. It was Newcastle's sixth goalless draw that season, in a campaign where the goal average had plummeted to an abysmal 2.58 per game. Fans were abandoning stadiums, newspapers were calling matches tedious, and the beautiful game was becoming, well, quite ugly. The culprit? The offside rule. Since 1866, football had operated under a law that required three opposing players, typically the goalkeeper and two defenders, to be between an attacking player and the goal for them to remain onside. Sounds reasonable, right? Wrong. Clever teams, led by the pioneering Notts County and perfected by Newcastle United's brilliant fullback duo, Frank Hudspeth and Bill McCracken, had weaponized this rule. They created what we now call the offside trap, but their version was devastatingly effective. Matches became concentrated in a thin sliver around the midfield, with Newcastle's defenders stepping up in perfect synchronization, leaving opposing forwards stranded in offside positions time and again. It was tactical genius, but it was killing the sport. The FA faced a crisis. They proposed two solutions: reduce the required players from 3 to 2, or create a 40-yard line behind which players couldn't be offside. After testing both in exhibition matches, they chose the first option. When implemented in the 1925 to 1926 season, the results were immediate and dramatic. Goal averages shot up to 3.69 per game. But here's where it gets really interesting. This seemingly simple change didn't just increase goals, it revolutionized football forever. Suddenly, keeping just one defender back while the other pushed forward to create the trap became incredibly risky. A mistimed step could leave an attacker one-on-one with the goalkeeper. The tactical balance had shifted, and football would never be the same. Speaking of controversial rule changes, let's talk about what might be football's most debated innovation: the penalty kick. The year was 1890, and a respected Irish linen magnate named William Macrum was frustrated. Not by his business, by the state of football. Macrum wasn't just any critic. He was a goalkeeper for tiny Milford Everton in County Armagh, and let me tell you, he knew about suffering on the pitch. His team finished their inaugural Irish League season without a single point, conceding 62 goals while scoring just 10. But Macrum's pain went beyond personal defeat. He was watching the integrity of his beloved sport crumble. As an influential member of the Irish Football Association, Macrum proposed something radical: a penalty kick for serious fouls committed in the penalty area. The reaction was explosive and almost entirely negative. Critics called it the death penalty, not for the offending team, but for football itself. The press ridiculed it, administrators dismissed it, and players protested it. The proposal was so unpopular that it exposed an uncomfortable truth. Everyone secretly knew that dirty tactics were rampant, but nobody wanted to admit it publicly. The Irish Football Association initially withdrew the proposal under pressure, but the International Board decided to reconsider it a year later. On June 2, 1891, in a stunning reversal, the proposal was unanimously approved. The penalty kick was born, though it looked nothing like what we see today. The first version was deeply flawed. Goalkeepers exploited loopholes, and the concept clashed with Victorian notions that gentlemen don't commit fouls. It took nearly 4 decades, until 1929, for the penalty rule to evolve into the robust deterrent Macrum had originally envisioned. Sadly, he died just 1 year later, but not before seeing his brainchild finally mature. And here's a piece of trivia for you. On September 14th, 1891, Wolverhampton Wanderers were awarded the first ever penalty in Football League history against Accrington Stanley. Billy Heath converted it in what became a 5-0 victory. Now, let's fast forward to modern football and examine how the Champions League has become a laboratory for tactical innovation. Remember Barcelona's mesmerizing 2011 season? Their success with quick, decentralized passing, what critics dismissively called tippy-tappy football, inspired clubs across Europe. Arsenal, Liverpool, Southampton, and Swansea City all tried to replicate that Barcelona magic. But here's what makes football beautiful. For every tactical innovation, there's always a counter. Jose Mourinho, ever the tactical chess master, developed a strategy specifically designed to neutralize these attacking teams. He crowded the box with defenders, making it nearly impossible for possession-based teams to find space. The effectiveness was proven when his teams dismantled even Barcelona, though ironically, Bayern Munich's superior pressing eventually overcame both approaches. To understand these tactical evolutions, let's examine the 2015 Champions League semifinals, where four distinct footballing philosophies collided. We had Pep Guardiola's Bayern Munich facing his former team Barcelona, while Real Madrid took on a resurgent Juventus. Each team represented a different tactical approach, and thanks to comprehensive data from Opta Sports, we can decode exactly how they operated. Guardiola's Bayern Munich were pass masters supreme, topping the Champions League with 8,593 passes from 12 matches, with 7,548 successful passes. But raw numbers tell only part of the story. When we map out their pass distribution, a fascinating pattern emerges. Bayern controlled the midfield area in front of their opponent's goal, with frequent passes from central areas towards the wings. The ball would travel to the left and right extremities before the penalty box, then cycle back to create another attacking opportunity. Juventus, by contrast, played a completely different game. They positioned themselves slightly deeper than Bayern and circulated the ball less frequently. Their attacks typically originated from areas left of the center circle, flowing towards the wings in a pattern orchestrated by the genius of Andrea Pirlo. While Bayern flooded the opposition's half with passes, Juventus showed restraint, preferring to initiate attacks through their right channel, with right-back Stefan Lichtsteiner and midfielder Claudio Marchisio combining to serve crosses for Carlos Tevez and Alvaro Morata. Let me share a story that perfectly illustrates how great teams adapt and evolve. It's a personal account from a player who experienced one of football's greatest tactical transformations firsthand at AC Milan during their legendary period. Picture this. A young defender catches the eye of AC Milan's technical manager, Ariete Braida, during a Gamper Trophy match in Barcelona. A simple CC in a dressing room conversation leads to a record transfer of 16.5 million guilders. But here's where the story gets fascinating. It's not just about the money, it's about tactical evolution. Initially, under Arrigo Sacchi, our protagonist played right wing in a 4-3-3 formation alongside Pietro Paolo Virdis as striker and Marco van Basten on the left flank. But football, like life, rarely goes according to plan. When Van Basten suffered an ankle injury before a crucial match against Verona, Milan faced a dilemma. The solution? A tactical switch to 4-4-2 with our player and Virdis leading the attack. The result? Victory against their bitter rivals and a permanent tactical evolution that would define Milan's success. This wasn't just a formation change, it was a complete philosophical shift. Our player had to adapt from playing as an outside right in a 4-3-3 to a striker in a 4-4-2, then later to right midfield. Each position required different skills, different thinking, different preparation. When Van Basten returned against Napoli, featuring Diego Maradona and Gianfranco Zola, he slotted in perfectly, and Milan found themselves with two Dutch strikers who had an almost telepathic understanding. The triangular passing movements between our player, Van Basten, Mauro Tassotti, and Frank Rijkaard became legendary, creating a tactical fluidity that was nearly impossible to defend against. But here's the detail that reveals the dedication behind greatness: the crossing practice. At Feyenoord, our player had spent countless hours perfecting crosses with striker Peter Houtman. While most players trained at 60% intensity, they trained at 100%, developing what the Germans called Bananenflanke, the ability to curve a ball quickly past a defender's extended leg. The precision required was extraordinary. With longer strides, there was no room for error in timing. Every cross had to account for the striker's position, which post they were targeting, the power needed, the trajectory required. Through relentless practice, our player developed an almost supernatural ability to deliver perfect crosses, even visualizing the game in widescreen mode, identifying teammates by their sock colors, and placing the ball exactly where they needed it. Now let's talk about one of football's most underutilized weapons: dead ball situations. Free kicks and corner kicks represent massive opportunities that many teams simply waste. The strategy seems simple: agree on tactics and practice them relentlessly, yet so few teams maximize these moments. Take free kicks first. The formation of the wall is entirely the goalkeeper's responsibility, and as an experienced manager will tell you, this decision can make or break the attempt. The conventional wisdom says put shorter players at the ends of the wall, but smart managers flip this: taller players in the center, shorter ones on the flanks. Why? Because most balls that beat the wall pass between the first and second, or second and third players in the line. A four-player wall is standard, with an additional player positioned for potential two-touch situations. Near the penalty area edge, you might see five players, essentially forcing the free kick taker toward the corner where the goalkeeper is positioned. The distances are usually too short for lobbing over a five-man wall. Only legends like Messi, Maradona, and Michel Platini could curve the ball adequately from such close range. Here's where psychology enters. Clever players watch goalkeepers instruct their walls to jump, then shoot under the jumping defenders. It becomes a mental chess match between the free kick specialist and the goalkeeper, each trying to anticipate the other's tactics. Corner kicks offer even more tactical complexity. Why do teams sometimes take short corners? The objective is simple but brilliant: disorient the defense and draw defenders away from the goal mouth. Even if only two defenders leave the penalty area to deal with a short corner, that's two fewer bodies to worry about when crossing the ball. Barcelona perfected a particularly clever corner strategy during their peak years. They'd position three strikers upfield, forcing opponents to keep four defenders back, plus one or two in midfield, and one at the penalty area edge. This left only three or four players available to attack corner kicks, a significant advantage for the attacking team. The timing of corner delivery is crucial. The ball must reach the front of goal, either directly or with curve, but beyond the goalkeeper's reach. Most importantly, defenders must be kept static. If they can run and build momentum for high jumps, advantage defense. If they're stuck in their zones, advantage attack. Let's delve into the psychological warfare that separates good managers from great ones. The legendary approach wasn't about elaborate, calculated strategies, though those existed, but about fundamental psychological principles that created a winning mentality. First rule: players must hear the truth, no matter how harsh. When representing a club like Manchester United, standards cannot be lowered to accommodate mediocrity. This meant being brutally honest about poor performances while simultaneously affirming the player's talent. The key was delivering criticism followed immediately by confidence building, acknowledging the disappointment while reminding players of their true capabilities. Endless praise becomes meaningless because players detect insincerity immediately. The manager-player relationship requires players to own their actions, acknowledge mistakes, and understand how their individual performance impacts team results. Sometimes an ugly 1-0 victory mattered more than a beautiful 6-0 triumph. Maintaining winning culture was everything. But here's where it gets really interesting: the mind games. That gesture toward the watch during matches? Pure psychological theater. While not actually tracking time accurately, the illusion of impending added minutes would unnerve opponents who knew how efficient United was at scoring late goals. Seeing that watch gesture, they knew they'd have to withstand relentless attacks for what felt like an eternity. The psychological element with individual players required deep empathy. Understanding how undisciplined players react to errors and potential punishment allowed for more impactful correction. The ultimate power, depriving players of playing time, remained the strongest motivational tool available. One notable incident involved Frank McGarvey at St. Mirren. After being told he might never play again, McGarvey begged for another chance after 3 weeks. The message was clear. Consequences were real and immediate. Interestingly, most public statements had no hidden implications despite constant speculation about mind games. The psychological pressure was often more about maintaining total concentration on everything that could benefit players, avoiding any unaccounted mistakes. Finally, let's examine what might be the most fascinating tactical study in modern football: Lionel Messi's approach to the game. Spanish journalist Santiago Segurola captured it perfectly. Sometimes Maradona was Maradona. Messi is Maradona every day. Here's what makes Messi extraordinary from a tactical perspective. While most exceptional players maintain their peak for 5 years, Messi sustained elite performance for over 15 years. Data journalist John Byrne Murdoch found that Messi reached or exceeded an average of a goal or assist per game in 11 seasons through 2019/20. Compare that to players like Robin and Henry, who achieved this 4 times, or Eto'o and Drogba, who managed it twice. But here's the paradox that reveals Messi's tactical genius. He spends most of his matches walking. During the 2014 World Cup, he ran less distance per game than any other player except Brazil's central defender Thiago Silva. This isn't laziness, it's strategic reconnaissance. Pep Guardiola explained it perfectly in the documentary Wonder. He is moving his head right, left, left, right. Messi uses his walking time to conduct comprehensive field scanning, visually mapping his next moves. Barcelona's Leek Martins, who studied Messi to improve her own game, noted that he decides what to do before receiving the ball. David Sumter, mathematics professor and author of Soccermatics, highlighted something remarkable. Despite being the main attacking threat, Messi often receives the ball unmarked. He achieves this by positioning himself strategically, sometimes just 1 yard away in the right direction, aligning with teammates' unobstructed passes. Marcus Rashford experienced this firsthand. He doesn't move, but he's everywhere because he lets everybody else move. Messi remains stationary, allowing opponents to shift away, then calls for the ball when space opens. Messi's movements are characterized by extraordinary precision. His second run concept is particularly brilliant. An initial run draws opponents out of position, but he only wants the ball during his second movement. Barcelona teammates learn to wait for this second run before passing. The false 9 position, perfected under Guardiola in 2009, utilized Messi as a center forward who wasn't actually a center forward. This confused traditional English center backs whose game was built around direct duels. Rio Ferdinand admitted that Messi's tactics left opponents without opportunities to tackle him or halt his progress. Messi's technical skills complement his tactical intelligence perfectly. His frequent ball touches, 3 times in the span Ronaldo touches twice, according to Johan Cruyff, combined with his ability to change direction while receiving the ball, create an almost unplayable combination. Perhaps most fascinatingly, mathematician David Sumter interpreted Messi's dribbles as geometric masterpieces. In one famous sequence against Athletic Bilbao, Messi arranged 3 surrounding defenders into a perfect triangle, maximizing his distance from each, then beat the central opponent, leaving a broken triangle behind. Even Messi's apparent predictability, typically aiming for valuable space on the penalty area periphery, serves a strategic purpose. Rather than occupying this space himself, he uses it to facilitate passes, usually to his left, positioning teammates like Luis Suarez in critical areas. From the offside tweak of 1925 to Messi's geometric mastery today, tactical shifts keep football alive. Every rule, counter, and generation reshapes the game. Intelligence meets athleticism. Mourinho's defensive puzzles, data-driven coaching, and the psychological edges that build champions all prove football's depth. Curious which forgotten decision caused the biggest ripple? In the next episode, we unpack a controversial penalty that changed how teams think about risk and reveal a hidden choice that still haunts managers. Download the Skoob app now to unlock the full story, bonus insights, and the extended episode. Thanks for listening to The Story of Us. Until next time, keep watching, keep analyzing. There's always more than meets the eye.